Hi there. Today we are going to read some more of Because of Winn Dixie by Kate DiCamillo. We are going to begin on chapter 9. And she's going to introduce a couple of characters in this book that whenever I read this to students, they love the way she describes these Dewberry boys. So, Chapter 9. Just about everything that had happened to me that summer happened because of Winn Dixie. For instance, without him, I never would have met Gloria Dump. He was the one who introduced us. What happened was this. I was riding my bike home from Gertrude's Pets, and Winn Dixie was running alongside of me. We went past Dunlap and Stevie Dewberry's house. And when Dunlap and Stevie saw me, they got on their bikes and they started following me. They wouldn't ride with me. They just rode behind me, whispering things that I couldn't hear. Neither of them had any hair on his head because their mama shaved their head every week during the summer because one time Dunlap got fleas in his hair from their cat, Sadie. And now they looked like two identical bald-headed babies, even though they weren't twins. Dunlap was 10 years old like me, and Stevie was 9, but tall for his age. "I can hear you," I hollered back at them. "I can hear what you're saying." But I couldn't. Winn Dixie started to race way ahead of me. "You better watch out," Dunlap hollered. "That dog's headed right for the witch's house." "Winn Dixie," I called, but he just kept going faster and hopped the gate and went into the most overgrown jungle of a yard that I had ever seen. "You better get that dog of yours out of there," Dunlap said. "That witch'll eat your dog," Stevie said. "Shut up," I told them. I got off my bike and I went up to the gate and I hollered, "Winn Dixie, you better come out of there." But he didn't. She's probably eating him up right now," Stevie said. He and Dunlap were standing behind me. "She eats dogs all the time." "Get lost, you bald-headed babies," I said. "Hey," said Dunlap, "that ain't very nice way for a preacher's daughter to talk." He and Stevie backed up a little. I stood there and I thought for a moment, and finally I decided I was more afraid of losing Winn Dixie than I was of having to deal with a dog-eating witch, so I went through the gate and into the yard. "That witch is going to eat that dog for dinner and you for dessert," Stevie said. "We'll tell the preacher what happened to you," Dunlap shouted after me. By then I was deep in the jungle. There was every kind of thing growing everywhere. There were flowers and vegetables and trees and vines. "Winn Dixie," I said. "Hee hee hee," I heard. "This dog sure likes to eat." I went around a really big tree all covered with moss, and there was Winn Dixie. He was eating something right out of that witch's hand. She looked up at me. "This dog sure likes peanut butter," she said. "You can always trust a dog that likes peanut butter." She was old, with wrinkly brown skin, and she had a big floppy hat on with flowers all over it, and she didn't have any teeth, but she didn't look like a witch. She looked nice, and Winn Dixie liked her, I could tell. "I'm sorry he got in your garden," I said. "You ain't got to be sorry," she said. "I enjoy a little company." "My name's Opal," I told her. "Well, my name's Gloria Dump," she said. "Ain't that the worst last name, Dump?" "Well, my last name is Baloney," I said, "and sometimes the kids back home in Watley called me Lunch Meat." "Ha!" Gloria Dump laughed. What about this dog? What do you call him?" "Winn Dixie," I said. Winn Dixie thumped his tail on the ground. He tried smiling, but it was hard with his mouth all full of peanut butter. "Winn Dixie?" Gloria Dump said. "You mean like the grocery store?" "Yes, ma'am," I said. "Hoo-wee," she said. "That takes a strange name prize, don't it?" "Yes, ma'am," I said. "I was just fixing to make myself a peanut butter sandwich," she said. "You want one too?" "All right," I said. "Yes, please." "Go on and sit down," she said, pointing at a lawn chair with the back all busted out of it. "But sit down careful." I sat down careful, and Gloria Dump made me a peanut butter sandwich on white bread. Then she made one for herself, and she put her false teeth in to eat it. And when she was done, she said to me, "You know, my eyes ain't too good at all. I can't see nothing but the general shape of things, so I gotta rely on my heart. Why don't you go on and tell me everything about yourself so I can see you with my heart?" And because Winn Dixie was looking up her like she was the best thing he'd ever seen, and because the peanut butter sandwich had been so good, and because I had been waiting for a long time to tell some person everything about me, I did. Chapter 10. I told Gloria Dump everything. I told her how me and the preacher had just moved to Naomi and how I had to leave all my friends behind. I told her about Mama leaving, and I listed out the 10 things that I knew about her, and I explained that here in Naomi I missed Mama more than I ever had in Watley. I told her about the preacher being like a turtle hiding all the time inside of his shell. I told her about finding Winn Dixie in the produce department and how, because of him, I became friends with Miss Franny Block and got a job working for a man named Otis at Gertrude's Pets, and I got invited to Sweetie Pie Thomas's birthday party. I even told Gloria Dump how Dunlap and Stevie Dewberry called her a witch. I told her they were stupid, mean, bald-headed boys, and I didn't believe them. Not for long, anyhow. And the whole time I was talking, Gloria Dump was listening, and she was nodding her head and smiling, and frowning, and saying, "Mm-hmm, is that right?" I could feel her listening with all her heart, and it felt good. "You know what?" she said when I was all done. "What?" "Could be that you got more of your mama in you than just the red hair and freckles running fast." "Really?" I said. "Like what?" "Like maybe you got her green thumb. The two of us could plant something and see how it grows. Test that thumb out." "Okay," I said. What Gloria Dump picked for me to grow was a tree. Or she said it was a tree. To me it looked more like a plant. She had me dig a hole for it and put it in the ground and pat the dirt down around it tight like it was a baby and I was tucking it into bed. "What kind of tree is it?" I asked Gloria Dump. "It's a wait-and-see tree," she said. "Well, what's that mean?" "It means you got to wait for it to grow up before you know what it is." "Can I come back and see it tomorrow?" I said. "Child," she said, "as long as this is my garden, you are welcome in it. But that tree ain't going to have changed much by tomorrow." "But I want to see you too," I said. Said Gloria Dump. "I ain't going nowhere. I'll be right here." I woke up Winn Dixie then. He had peanut butter in his whiskers, and he kept yawning and stretching. He licked Gloria Dump's hand before we left, and I thanked her. And that night when the preacher was tucking me into bed, I told him how I got a job at Gertrude's Pets. And I told him all about making friends with Miss Franny Block and getting invited to Sweetie Pie's party. And I told him about meeting Gloria Dump. Winn Dixie lay on the floor waiting for the preacher to leave so he could hop up on the bed like he always did. And when I was done talking, the preacher kissed me goodnight, and then he leaned way over and he gave Winn Dixie a kiss too, right on the top of his head. "You go on and get up there now," he said to Winn Dixie. Winn Dixie looked at the preacher. He didn't smile at him, but he opened his mouth wide like he was laughing, like the preacher had just told him the funniest joke in the world. And this is what amazed me most. The preacher laughed back. Winn Dixie hopped up onto the bed, and the preacher got up and turned out the light. I leaned over and I kissed Winn Dixie too, right on the nose. But he didn't notice. He was already asleep and snoring. Chapter 11. That night there was a real bad thunderstorm. But what woke me up wasn't the thunder and the lightning. It was Winn Dixie whining and butting his head against my bedroom door. "Winn Dixie," I said, "what are you doing?" He didn't pay any attention to me. He just kept beating his head on the door and whining and whimpering. When I got out of bed and I went over and I put my hand on his head, he was shaking and trembling so hard that it scared me. I knelt down and I wrapped my arms around him, but he didn't turn and look at me or smile or wheeze, sneeze or wag his tail or do any of the normal kind of Winn Dixie things. He just kept beating his head on the door and crying and shaking. "You want that door open?" I said. "Huh? Is that what you want?" And I stood up and I opened the door, and Winn Dixie flew through it like something big and ugly and mean was chasing him. "Winn Dixie," I hissed, "come back here." I didn't want him going and waking the preacher up. But it was too late. Winn Dixie was already at the other end of the trailer in the preacher's room, and I could tell because there was a spring sound that must have come from Winn Dixie jumping up on the bed, and then there was a sound from the preacher like it was real surprised. None of it lasted long because Winn Dixie came tearing back out of the preacher's room, panting, running like crazy, and I tried to grab him, but he was going too fast. "Opal?" said the preacher. He was standing at the door of his bedroom. His hair was all kind of wild on top of his head, and he was looking around like he wasn't sure where he was. "Opal? What's going on?" "I don't know," I told him, but just then there was a huge crack of thunder, one so loud that it shook the whole trailer, and Winn Dixie came shooting back out of my room and went running right past me, and I screamed, "Daddy, watch out!" But the preacher was still confused, and he just stood there, and Winn Dixie came barreling right toward him like he was a bowling ball, and the preacher was the only pin left standing, and wham! They both fell to the ground. "Uh-oh," I said. "Opal," said the preacher. He was lying on his stomach, and Winn Dixie was sitting on top of him, panting and whining. "Yes, sir," I said. "Opal," the preacher said again. "Yes, sir," I said louder. "Do you know what a pathological fear is?" "No, sir," I told him. The preacher raised his hand and rubbed his nose. "Well," he said after a minute, "it's a fear that goes way beyond normal fears. It's a fears that you can't be talked out of or reasoned out of." Just then there was another crack of thunder, and Winn Dixie rose straight up in the air like somebody had poked him with something hot, and then he hit the floor, and he started running, and he ran back to my room, and I didn't even try to catch him. I just got out of his way. The preacher lay there on the ground rubbing his nose, and finally he said, "Opal, I believe Winn Dixie has a pathological fear of thunderstorms." And then just as he finished his sentence, here came Winn Dixie again, running to save his life. I got the preacher up off the floor and out of the way just in time. There didn't seem to be a thing we could do for Winn Dixie to make him feel better. So we sat there and watched him run back and forth, all terrorized and panting. And every time there was another crack of thunder, Winn Dixie acted up all over again, like it was surely the end of the world. Storms don't last long, the preacher told me, and when it's over, the real Winn Dixie will come back. After a while, the storm did end. The rain stopped. There wasn't any more lightning, and finally the last rumble of thunder went away. Winn Dixie quit running back and forth and came over to where me and the preacher were sitting, and he cocked his head like he was saying, "What in the world are you two doing out of bed in the middle of the night?" And then he crept up on the couch with us, in that funny way he has where he gets on the couch an inch at a time, kind of sliding himself onto it, looking off in a different direction like it's all just happening by accident, like he doesn't intend to get on the couch, but all of a sudden, there he is. And so the three of us sat there. I rubbed Winn Dixie's head and scratched him behind the ears the way he liked, and the preacher said, "There are an awful lot of thunderstorms in Florida in the summertime." "Yes, sir," I said, and I was afraid maybe he would say we couldn't keep a dog who went crazy with a pathological fear every time there was a crack of thunder. "We'll have to keep an eye on him," the preacher said. He put his arm around Winn Dixie. "We'll have to make sure he doesn't get out during a storm. He might run away. We have to make sure we keep him safe." "Yes, sir," I said again, and all of a sudden, it was hard for me to talk. I loved the preacher so much. I loved him because he loved Winn Dixie. I loved him because he was going to forgive Winn Dixie for being afraid. But most of all, I loved him for putting his arm around Winn Dixie like that. Like he was already trying to keep him safe. That's where we will stop. I will pick up with chapter 12 tomorrow.